The moment of the rocket launch was the culmination of years of preparation. The engines roared, filling the surrounding space with a deafening noise. The flames bursting from the nozzles illuminated the launch pad, and the rocket, like a living being, slowly lifted off the Earth, gaining speed with every second. The crew, strapped into their seats, felt the full force of the G-forces. The pressure pressed them into their seats, and breathing became labored, but their training allowed them to remain calm. The life support systems operated normally, maintaining pressure and temperature in the cabin, while special suits helped them cope with the physical strain. Outside the windows, Earth rapidly shrank, transforming into a bright blue sphere enveloped in a thin veil of atmosphere. Continents, oceans, and clouds merged into a single image, a reminder of the fragility and beauty of their home planet. Every crew member understood that these were the last moments they would see Earth so close. Ahead lay years of travel, exploration, and life far from home. This was the point of no return, and the realization filled their hearts with both anxiety and determination. The rocket continued to gain altitude, its systems operating flawlessly. The automation controlled the trajectory, the engines adjusted the course, and the onboard computers monitored the condition of all components. The crew knew that every part had been checked hundreds of times, but space does not forgive mistakes. In these moments, each of them felt not only the responsibility for the mission but also a deep connection to what they had left behind. Earth, now distant and unreachable, had become a symbol of everything they had embarked on this journey for. Life aboard a spacecraft during a long journey to Mars is a challenging yet fascinating process that requires the crew to maintain high discipline and adapt to unusual conditions. Weightlessness, which becomes a familiar environment, brings its own adjustments to daily routines. Simple actions like eating or personal hygiene turn into elaborate rituals. Food, packaged in special containers to prevent crumbs from floating around, requires careful handling, and water is used sparingly, as its supply is limited. The crew quickly masters the techniques of moving in zero gravity, using handrails and restraints to keep themselves in place. To maintain physical health, time is allocated every day for workouts. Special equipment, such as treadmills with harnesses and resistance bands, helps combat muscle atrophy and bone loss. Mental health is also under constant monitoring. The crew regularly communicates with psychologists on Earth, and during free time, they engage in hobbies, read, or watch movies. An important element is communication with each other, which helps cope with feelings of isolation. Scientific experiments take up a significant portion of time. The crew studies the effects of weightlessness on plant growth, conducts experiments with materials in microgravity conditions, and observes changes in their own bodies. These studies not only expand scientific knowledge but also help prepare for life on Mars. The view through the portholes is awe-inspiring in its grandeur. The endless black void, dotted with countless stars, evokes a sense of infinity. Earth gradually transforms into a tiny blue dot, while Mars, still distant, becomes increasingly visible. The perception of time and space shifts. Days and nights lose their familiar meaning, and distance is measured not in kilometers, but in months of travel. However, the journey is not without risks. Space radiation poses a serious threat to the crew's health. To protect against it, specially shielded compartments are used, along with constant monitoring of radiation levels. In the event of solar flares, the crew takes shelter in the most protected parts of the spacecraft. Despite all the challenges, the crew continues to move forward, overcoming obstacles and getting closer to their goal. Mars, which had previously been just a distant red dot against the black backdrop of space, finally became visible through the windows. With each passing hour, the planet grew larger, transforming from a tiny disk into a vast, mesmerizing world. Its surface, covered with craters, canyons, and dusty plains, seemed both close and unreachable at the same time. The reddish-orange hues of Mars contrasted sharply with the deep blackness of space, creating a sense that the crew was approaching something ancient and mysterious. The crew members, holding their breath, watched the planet with a mix of awe and excitement. This was the moment they had spent years preparing for. Preparation for landing began long before Mars became visible. The braking system, which included powerful engines and a heat shield, had been thoroughly tested. The spacecraft began to decelerate, using the planet's gravity to perform complex maneuvers. Each stage required precision. The slightest mistake could lead to disaster. The crew worked in unison, monitoring every parameter. The ship's commander gave clear instructions, while the engineers kept a close eye on the sensor readings, ready to respond instantly to any deviations. Technical difficulties were inevitable. The atmosphere of Mars, although thin, posed additional risks. The heat shield began to heat up, and the vibrations of the hull intensified. In such moments, every crew member understood how crucial their professionalism and trust in each other were. Landing on Mars was not just a technical task, it was a challenge that demanded maximum concentration and confidence in their actions. The team knew the most critical part was yet to come. The landing on Mars became the culmination of years of preparation and a tense flight. When the module touched the surface, a momentary silence fell in the cabin, broken only by the sounds of systems confirming the successful completion of the maneuver. The crew exchanged glances filled with relief and awe. They were the first humans to reach this distant planet. The first minutes on Mars were spent checking all systems. Every step was carefully planned, from analyzing the atmosphere to monitoring the pressure inside the module. When the moment to step outside arrived, the team put on their spacesuits, and the airlock slowly opened. The first step onto the red soil became historic. Beneath their feet, the Martian ground crunched, and an endless landscape stretched out around them, painted in shades of rusty red and orange. The sky, unlike Earth's, appeared pale and cold, and the horizon was dotted with low hills and rocks. The crew felt a mix of exhilaration and responsibility. They understood that this was not just a moment of triumph but also the beginning of a long and challenging journey. The first task was to set up a temporary camp. They deployed life support modules, connected solar panels, and checked the backup systems. Every device, every mechanism was thoroughly tested, from water filtration systems to oxygen generators. Mars greeted them harshly. The low temperature, thin atmosphere, and constant threat of dust storms served as a reminder that survival here would require maximum focus and discipline. Yet, even under these conditions, the crew felt an incredible sense of inspiration. They had become part of history, pioneers opening a new chapter in space exploration. However, ahead of them lay months of work, experiments, and a battle with the unknown. Life on Mars requires the crew to adapt not only physically but also psychologically to the new conditions. Each day begins with a strict schedule designed to make the most efficient use of limited resources. Water, oxygen, and food supplies are meticulously accounted for, and their consumption is carefully monitored. Water is extracted from Martian soil using specialized equipment, while oxygen is produced through electrolysis. Meals are organized around freeze-dried and canned foods, supplemented by fresh vegetables grown in hydroponic greenhouses. This approach not only conserves supplies but also helps maintain the team's morale. Martian gravity, which is about 38% of Earth's, has a significant impact on the human body. Muscles and bones begin to lose mass, so each crew member performs special exercises on training equipment daily to minimize the negative effects. Scientific experiments conducted under such conditions provide unique data on the effects of low gravity on human physiology, plants, and microorganisms. These studies are of great importance for future long-term missions. Working on Mars requires high discipline and coordination. Crew members distribute responsibilities. Some handle equipment maintenance, others focus on scientific research, and some take care of everyday tasks. Communication with Earth is carried out through a satellite system, but due to signal delays, which can reach up to 20 minutes, the team learns to make decisions independently. This fosters a sense of responsibility and unity. Sleep on the Martian base is organized in special capsules that provide comfort and protection from external factors. Despite the isolation and challenging conditions, the crew finds time for rest and communication, which helps maintain psychological resilience. Adapting to life on Mars is a continuous process that requires flexibility, patience, and mutual support. The first steps onto the surface of Mars became a pivotal moment of the mission. The crew, clad in specialized spacesuits designed to protect against low temperatures and a thin atmosphere, cautiously stepped onto the red soil. What struck the explorers first were the unusual landscapes. Endless plains covered in a layer of rust-red sand, and distant mountain ranges with sharp peaks rising in the distance. On the horizon, traces of ancient volcanoes were visible, a reminder of the planet's turbulent geological past. To study the surface, advanced tools were used. Spectrometers for analyzing soil composition, drilling rigs for collecting samples from depth, and drones capable of surveying hard-to-reach areas. Each day brought new data. Scientists discovered traces of minerals that could only have formed in the presence of water, supporting the hypothesis that bodies of water existed on Mars in the distant past. Particular interest was sparked by findings resembling fossilized structures, which could potentially be traces of ancient microbial life. Exploring the surroundings of the base became a daily ritual. The crew traveled in specialized rovers equipped with solar panels, which allowed them to cover significant distances. Each new route revealed unique geological features: canyons, dried-up riverbeds, and areas with unusual soil textures. However, working on Mars came with its challenges. Dust storms, sharp temperature fluctuations, and limited resources required the team to remain constantly vigilant and adaptable. Every day on Mars brought not only new discoveries but also new challenges. The researchers understood that their work was just the beginning of a long journey to unravel the mysteries of this planet. Each step on its surface brought humanity closer to understanding whether life could have ever existed here and what conditions made Mars the way it is today. Life on Mars imposes not only physical but also psychological demands on the crew. Isolation and distance from Earth create unique conditions that can significantly affect people's mental state. Prolonged stays in confined spaces, limited social interaction, and the inability to return home quickly can lead to feelings of loneliness, stress, and even conflicts among team members. One of the key factors that help in coping with such challenges is maintaining morale. Regular communication with family and friends through video calls helps reduce the feeling of being disconnected from the familiar world. Hobbies such as reading, drawing, or playing music allow one to distract themselves and maintain emotional balance. Shared activities, whether they are celebrations, games, or discussing plans, strengthen team spirit and contribute to creating a positive atmosphere. Psychological resilience is becoming no less important than physical fitness. The ability to cope with difficulties, support one another, and find joy in small things. All of this helps the crew not only survive but also work effectively under the conditions of a Martian mission. Understanding and managing emotions, as well as developing communication skills, are becoming essential tools for overcoming the challenges associated with life on another planet. Scientific discoveries made during the Mars mission have marked an important step in the study of the red planet and its potential for future exploration. One of the key achievements was the detection of traces of water, both in the form of ice and hydrated minerals. These findings confirmed the hypothesis that in the distant past, Mars had a wetter climate, and its surface may have been covered by rivers, lakes, and even oceans. This discovery not only sheds light on the planet's history but also offers hope for the possibility of utilizing local resources to support the lives of future colonists. Mineralogical research has also yielded significant results. Scientists have discovered a variety of minerals, including clays, sulfates, and iron oxides, which indicate complex geochemical processes that occurred in the past. These minerals could serve as a key to understanding the evolution of the Martian atmosphere and climate, and could potentially be used for the production of building materials and other resources. Particular interest was sparked by discoveries related to possible traces of life. Although direct evidence of living organisms has not yet been found, the presence of organic molecules in the soil and rocks suggests that conditions suitable for the emergence of life may have existed. These findings compel us to reconsider our understanding of the prevalence of life in the universe and raise new questions about its origins. Research on Mars not only expands our knowledge about the planet itself but also transforms our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. Each discovery brings us closer to answering fundamental questions. How planets form, what conditions are necessary for life, and how humanity can adapt to new worlds. Mars is becoming more than just an object of study, it is turning into a unique laboratory where hypotheses that could change our perception of the universe are tested. Preparations for the return to Earth began long before the scheduled date. The crew meticulously checked the spacecraft's systems, packed scientific samples, and equipment that needed to be delivered to Earth. Every step was carefully thought out, as even the slightest mistake could jeopardize the success of the entire mission. Mars, which had become almost like home over the months of their stay, now had to be left behind. Emotions were mixed. On one hand, there was joy at the prospect of soon returning home, and on the other, sadness at parting with the planet that had become a symbol of humanity's quest for the unknown. When the day of departure arrived, the crew took their places in the spacecraft. The launch proceeded without complications, and soon the red surface of Mars began to recede, turning into a tiny dot against the backdrop of endless space. The return flight was no less challenging than the journey to Mars. Despite thorough preparation, unforeseen difficulties arose. Malfunctions in the life support system, the need for course corrections due to solar activity. But every member of the crew understood that these trials were just part of the grand journey. As they approached Earth, conversations about the future became more frequent. Returning home did not mean the end of the mission. On the contrary, it was the beginning of a new era. The data collected on Mars opened up incredible prospects for further space exploration. The crew realized that their experience would serve as the foundation for future expeditions, which might lead to the establishment of the first colonies beyond Earth. And although the journey home was long and challenging, everyone understood that this was just the first step in humanity's endless journey to the stars. A mission to Mars marks the beginning of a new era in human history. It is not just an achievement of technological progress but also a testament to humanity's unquenchable desire to explore the unknown. Mars is becoming not only a destination but also a symbol, embodying humanity's readiness to push boundaries and challenge the cosmos. However, this is only the first step on a long journey. Future missions, whether they involve colonizing other planets or traveling beyond the solar system, promise to be even more ambitious. Humanity stands on the threshold of new discoveries, and every step forward is not only a scientific breakthrough but also proof of our ability to dream and turn those dreams into reality. Mars is not just a planet, it is a horizon beyond which endless possibilities lie.